What's happening, guys? James Blonde here with MMOHuts.com. This time with a first look at a brand new Monster Hunter meets Pokemon style MMORPG called Dragomon Hunter from X Legend, published by Aeira Games. Now, X Legend, of course, is the same development studio behind Eden Eternal, Grand Fantasia, and more recently, Aeira Kingdom. So, of course, Dragomon Hunter is going to sport that cutesy anime look and feel, as well as a couple of unique elements that help separate it a little bit from MMOs in general. In this case, it's the Dragomon themselves, which, as you probably guessed, are Pokemon-type creatures that exist all over the world that you can defeat, collect, turn into mounts, or even use to defend against larger Dragomon, threatening your own personal Dragomon ranch. The game just recently went into closed beta and quickly jumped into open beta right after that, pretty much a week later. So with that, I'll hop in and I guess I'll try to catch them all, or at least show you some of the game's features. Okay, so we can briefly go over the class options and customization here. As of now, the game has 4 classes to choose from. You've got the Mercenary, the Mage, the Cleric, and the Scout, all of which are not gender-locked. Definitely something that we like seeing in the anime-style MMORPGs. So the Mercenary here is your typical burst damage and well-rounded melee fighter. You've got decent AoE, decent speed, and crowd control effects, and quite a bit of health, as you can see from here. Now, beyond that, to separate the class a bit further, you've got weapon specializations for each one of these classes. With the Mercenary, you can wield either a battle axe or great sword, and in doing so, you gain access to completely different skill sets. The cool part about this is you can actually switch back and forth according to what you like, and with further customization to the weapons that you can get later on, this gives you some variety to your fighting, especially when you look at, say, the Scout class, who has the dual blades at first, and then can switch to the rifle as an alternative weapon. The skills between that class change gets them from very close combat to ranged, which works really well for them, seeing that they're the squishier of the classes to play, and the Mage, but, you know, the Mage, of course, is already ranged. You gain access to the alternative weapon types for your class at level 20 when you're able to craft them. But anyway, you can see that this can give you some sort of variety to your playstyle just on its own, much less some of the other features the game offers, which we'll get into next. Based on how the combat is set up in the game, each one of the classes sports single-target and multi-target skills, some more than others, of course, but either way, any of these classes are perfectly fine for soloing if you choose to do so. Even the Cleric. I mean, they get to use a big-ass hammer to smash innocent-looking creatures into the ground. Doesn't get much more fun than that. The game offers up the basics when it comes to customization. You've got several options for hairstyles and face styles, along with hair color and eye color, of course. And then you've got 4 options for your character voice, which is something you're definitely going to hear often spamming your skills. And if you don't like it, you can just die. Yeah, choose your voice here, or die. Pretty simple. So there's just enough to separate yourself slightly from everyone else running around in the game, but mainly that's left up to the Dragomon that you get to ride around and the costumes that you come across as well. Now, beyond just the 4 classes you can choose from, you also get to choose your companion's class, which is this little guy right here who kind of looks like he took too many bad drugs. So just like your character, you've got a couple of ways to customize this little guy, which is called a hop-along in-game. It's pretty much your partner throughout the entire game who can actually have their own class specializations with different skills, and they can also wear the same armor and use some of the same weapons as your character, which is cool if you ask me. Now, there are more classes you can end up learning for your hop-along than classes for your character. In fact, there are 9 classes, so quite a bit more. Over time, you find opportunities to learn new class specializations for your companion, which give them different skills, just like it does for your character whenever you select your alternative weapon type. The Hop-Along only has 2 skills to use at any given time, but they can use them to help you fight throughout the world. And over time, as you level up, so does your Hop-Along, and you'll eventually be able to switch classes, which will give you more variety to your playstyle as you try to figure out the best class combination between your character's class and your companion's class. This is actually one of the coolest features in the game, if you ask me. Now, when starting out, there is a very short tutorial where you end up fighting a big dragon-looking Dragomon to get the feel for the combat. Now, the combat in this game sort of depends on your control preference, really. It's tab-target style combat system, but you don't have to be locked onto your target in order to use your abilities. You do have to aim your skills in the direction of your enemies for them to actually work. Plus, you can choose between your standard MMORPG style control scheme, the reticule style gameplay, which is what I chose. This is more like Aeira Kingdom or Neverwinter, for example, and to me it gives you more of an action combat style feel. It gets you closer to that anyway. Or you can use a gamepad. It has native gamepad support from the get-go. And on top of the options for controls and the way the combat actually works in the game, the developers were talking about how they've focused on making the visual feedback of combat more visceral and sensitive this time around, so you can really tell when you've hit something. And I haven't exactly experienced this yet in-game, but apparently if you're fighting a really strong Dragomon and you don't have a powerful enough weapon, your weapon will physically bounce off of their armor, which is kind of cool. I kind of like to see that. So I can say for the type of game, the combat is a little more involved than you usually see. I'd say more along the lines of Dragon Nest, to be honest. And I'd say that if you want to get the most out of it, then you're going to want to switch from the traditional style option that it starts you off with default to either using the reticule style or gamepad. That being said, the controls are also a bit clunky with normal gameplay, not really intuitive overall. For example, in order to toggle your cursor in reticule mode, you have to press the H key by default. So that takes some time getting used to, especially since you have to press H again to get back into reticule targeting. And if you don't, you can still control your character and attack. It's just really odd, but you might accidentally do this a couple of times and get yourself in trouble. This is something you can probably adjust in the settings to feel a little bit more intuitive, but there's going to be several things you're going to have to change in order to make that work. But anyway, moving on, when it comes to questing in the game, everything seems to be pretty linear in my opinion. And not just the questing, but also the types of Dragomon that you see other players riding around. The questing is your standard kill X number of weak Dragomon or visit a certain NPC, and ever so often you fight a larger Dragomon mini-boss. And from what I've gathered, honestly, the early game is about killing a whole lot of innocent creatures that really can't fend for themselves, even if they tried. Then you steal their babies from all of the families, crushing their hopes and dreams along the way. And then if they're lucky, they will spend the rest of their sad life with you on their back, taking you to your next quest location, and then occasionally fighting other larger, meaner Dragomon, so they too can suffer the same fate. Kind of depressing if you look at the harsh reality of it. So yeah, the gameplay and questing gets pretty repetitive, at least early on up to level 20 so far, but from there you start to get more variety in the ways that you gain EXP for leveling. Most of the quests you start getting from are from the Hunters League bounty board, and from here you can choose to either do bounty quest or hunter quest. Each one is sort of associated with a faction. And these are repeatable, which is very helpful early game for collecting necessary crafting materials in order to make better gear. Some of your regular quests have you check the bounty board to do these bounties, so you can complete quests for crafting certain gear, and that's kind of part of what I mean by the game is linear. The bounty board looks to be there as an alternative way for leveling, or getting access to specific materials, or even Dragomon, and it is. You can see all the rewards you can earn from completing them right here. But really, the normal questing sends you to do this anyway, so it's not exactly a choice until you've at least finished it the first time. Then you can go back and do these for little to no XP, but you'll be getting the materials you need to craft things or complete new quests accordingly. Another thing worth mentioning, and I probably should have mentioned this earlier, the game is set up where everything is an instance. Originally, my thought was that it was going to be an open world area where you could travel to different locations to seek out specific Dragomon that you wanted to fight and tame, but seeing that it's set up with instances, you just sort of hop through a portal and you're sent to an area. Sometimes solo, sometimes not, where there are a lot of one particular type of Dragomon, or two Dragomon types that are getting harassed by each other, and you gotta kill them all anyway. And after you do your questing and killing in that area, you instantly warp back to the hub world, or go to the next instance to do the next bounty quest. So it's a little more restricting in that sense than I expected. I didn't really see that coming. So just to give you an idea, it's set up more like Elsword or Dragon Nest in that sense, with a little less freedom. I mean, like I said, you get instantly teleported back to where you came from. Some people might not mind this, but I just wanted to sort of point that out. I guess the game is a little bit more focused on the end content where you're collecting Dragomon and whatnot, and so this isn't that big of an issue. Another small annoyance is the quest tracking method. This is one of those games where it's most helpful if you click the quest from the log and sort of let it show you where to go, especially in town where it's super busy. You can't even really see the NPCs that you've got to talk to in order to pick up the quest, much less figure out how to get to them without it showing you. So like I said, the easiest way is just to rely on following the path where you need to go. But that being said, the path itself couldn't be any harder to see unless it wasn't there entirely. Instead of having an arrow or something you have to follow like in other MMORPGs, you've got this fairy dust looking trail that you have to pretty much find every time before you can follow it. Luckily, they've updated this from the closed beta to the open beta to be a little clearer, plus it now auto walks you to your destination. Not really sure if I like this or not. It is convenient, but I'm starting to feel like, am I actually playing the game? So it went from this to this, which is much better. And it's nice that they listened to the feedback on that and changed it so quickly. Gotta give them credit there. Now, at level 15, you gain access to the Hoppodrome, I believe it's called. And this is where you fight some of the more elite Dragomon that gets transported in for rewards and gear. And you do this solo or with a group, but in order to do so, you have to earn tickets to enter. So basically, it's like a currency that you get in order to enter to kill these things to earn more currency. Again, just like the Dragomon bosses out in the world, they don't really pose much of a challenge, especially early level. But putting these guys out of their misery will get you specific currency that is used for two different systems in the game. One being crafting, which is a very prominent feature in the game, and it works along the same lines as Raiders or Monster Hunter, where you kill a specific type of Dragomon mini-boss, so to speak, get materials from them that are unique to that Dragomon, and use them to craft certain weapons and gear, better than what you could find otherwise. Once again, this is a very linear system when it comes down to it. Some of the quests have you do this just to get introduced to it, and then that seems to happen multiple times, so it's not always a choice to craft gear made from Dragomon bits. But it's a good feature in the game as well. I mean, it worked for Raiders. The crafting in the game is very intuitive, and you can even trade materials right from the crafting menu to get what you need. Same thing goes with getting your gear more powerful. Very straightforward. You can evolve your gear, and the cool part here is that there's no failure reset. If you fail, you get potential points, which actually increase your success rate for the next attempt. Not to mention, while we're talking about character progression, every time you level, you can allocate stats to particular attributes on your character, and you can reset them at any time, and it doesn't cost you anything. These are rather small boosts, but over time, of course, they add up. The other use for materials you get from defeating elite Dragomon in the Hoppodrome is used for recording Dragomon on your own personal ranch. Now, the ranch is where you keep and breed the Dragomon you collect. You get access to the ranch through a level 15 quest, and here you can feed your Dragomon and watch them frolic, I guess. But you can also record them and set them up for defense in case your ranch gets attacked, which I can imagine later on when this happens is pretty cool. Like I mentioned, you can also record your Dragomon's behavior once a day based on specific materials that it calls for, some of which, like I said, are earned from fighting the Dragomon in the Hoppodrome, and these are some of the same materials that you use for crafting, so it's like you have to make a choice between recording your Dragomon to get some of the rewards, or crafting better gear. Anyway, recording Dragomon can only happen once every 24 hours, real time, but it earns you a lot of rewards, including the ability to summon that Dragomon as a mount, and then earn Dragoglyphs, which are essentially special added bonuses to your Dragomon that make them more effective against specific Dragomon. But other than that, there's a lot you can do on your own personal ranch, and from the looks of it, there's even more later on, so this is going to be a huge feature whenever the game gets going. As far as what's in the cash shop, everything is purely cosmetic or convenience items. You can buy some Dragomon EXP equal to killing 10 enemies if you want, right here. I think I'd rather just kill 10 enemies. You can buy mounts and pets, but these are the same ones that you actually have a good chance of unlocking early on just by playing the game. And then, of course, you can buy specific resources necessary to do some upgrades to your gear or Dragomon collections. Luckily, nothing surprising in the cash shop. And yeah, guys, that's about what I have to show you for Dragomon Hunter, and if someone were to ask me...
Are you feeling psyched?
Not really. Overall, I'm actually a little underwhelmed with this one. Like I said earlier, I was expecting more of an open world setup, at least like Aeira Kingdom, where I had to look for special Dragomon I wanted to tame and capture. I guess I've been playing a little bit too much Ark Survival Evolved, but for plenty of players, clearly. It's got some decent stuff to offer. Later on, there's going to be some Dragomon versus Dragomon PvP. That could be really interesting. And again, the Dragomon Ranch, once you've built it up and have to defend it from raid boss attacks, essentially, that could be really cool as well. So I'd say all in all, try out the game now that it's in open beta to see if it works for you. Thanks for watching, guys. Check out the links in the description below. We might have some cool giveaways for you guys interested in Founders Packs. If you're looking for more information about Dragomon Hunter, head over to the game profile at MMOHuts.com. And until next time, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.